Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody.
Hillary Clinton wants to abolish it, believe me. She wants to abolish our Second Amendment.
I think they didn't deny it. I don't think anybody denied it.
Other presidents did not call. They'd write letters, and some presidents didn't do anything.
Many people have come out and said I'm right.
You really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop?
Hello and welcome to Fallacious Trump, the podcast where we use the insane ramblings of a fake billionaire to explain logical fallacies. I'm your host, Jim.
And I'm your other host, Mark. A logical fallacy is an error in reasoning that results in bad or invalid arguments. The logical fallacy we're looking at this week is special pleading, also known as ad hoc reasoning and double standards.
So special pleading is basically where you have an excuse for not holding yourself to the same standards as you hold other people to.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't have to necessarily be yourself. It can be a person that you favour or a situation that you like. And this is something that's so common. We definitely all do it. I do it.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone listening to this does it because it's just one of those confirmation bias things. When you have, for example, a politician that you favour and you think that politicians in general shouldn't do things, but that politician does it.
Yeah.
You look for reasons why it's okay if they do
for
it.
them to do it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just completely natural. You ascribe good motivations to people you like, including yourself, and negative motivations to other people. So it's really, really hard to avoid doing, but it's good to know that it exists and spot when other people are doing it and try and avoid doing it yourself as much as you can.
Yeah.
So for our first example, it's actually a whole series of events that Trump did starting back in August of 2015. He released a campaign position paper, which was called Immigration Reform That Will Make America Great Again. And he detailed in it his plan to have a requirement to hire American workers first. Mm-hmm. He said that basically there's too many foreign people being hired, essentially, and we need to make sure that American companies hire American people from the domestic pool of unemployed people to increase American jobs, which is fair enough. Lofty goal. Not bad. The difficulty is that he doesn't practice what he preaches. And over the past 8 years, before up to 2015, Trump had actually hired over 1,000 foreign workers on temporary visas to work at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach as cooks, waiters, housekeepers and maids and people like that. Paid them around $10 to $12 an hour, which is the benefit of getting foreign workers on temporary visas because you don't have to pay them as much as you have to pay American people. Mm-hmm. But obviously this is in stark contrast to what he's saying everyone should do. Yeah. So in the 11th Republican presidential candidate debate in March 2016, Marco Rubio pointed this out and Trump explained himself. He said,
It is very, very hard to get people, but other hotels do the exact same thing. And just so you understand, just again, this is a legal process. This is a procedure. It's part of the law. I take advantage of that. There's nothing wrong with it. We have no choice.
Wow, the whole bunch of stuff in there,
answers there. He started out with it's very, very hard to get people. So he's claiming that you just can't hire Americans to do these jobs. Yeah,
despite the fact that
the prices
that's
he's
what
paying.
You've got to do.
It's probably fair that there are less people willing to do that kind of work for the money he's prepared to pay them. Yeah. There's a tu quoque in there. Other hotels do the same thing. Yeah. He's justifying it by saying it's just part of the law and he's taking advantage of the law. There's nothing wrong with doing that. There is something wrong with doing it if you're saying no one else should do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then he ends it by saying we have no choice.
Yeah.
I think going back to the saying that you just can't get Americans to do it.
Okay.
But he kept on, even after this, he kept on kind of pushing this and the next day after this debate there was a press release on Trump's website that said, I will end forever the use of H-1B as a cheap labour programme and institute an absolute requirement to hire American workers for every visa and immigration programme, no exceptions.
Right.
So that's fairly clear. He's
yeah.
doubling down. He's presumably from that, you would assume that he's just not going to use foreign workers anymore.
Yeah.
Because he said you have to hire American workers, no exceptions.
Yeah.
Once he became president in April 2017, he signed an executive order, which he called Buy American, Hire American, which basically followed through on this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But Mar-a-Lago kept hiring foreign workers.
No, what?
It's amazing, isn't it? It's a really big surprise. In the 2017-2018 winter season, they hired 70 temporary foreign workers. So should we just assume that Trump was telling the truth when he said you can't get Americans to do this? They don't have the skills or the inclination to do these jobs.
Yeah.
Well, BuzzFeed News talked to a local employment agency in Palm Beach, and their senior director told BuzzFeed that he had a database of 1,327 Palm Beach County residents who were interested in server, cook and chef positions.
Yeah.
He said local hotels were seeking his agency's help to fill around 850 of those kinds of jobs, but Mar-a-Lago was not one of the companies that had contacted his agency.
Right.
So
there are people
Americans
there
willing to do the job.
to do it.
They're looking for work.
But it is quite hard to get people if you don't go and ask agencies that have those people. That's certainly a barrier to accessing those people. It's just not to go where they are.
Yeah. And the benefits of hiring foreign workers on a temporary visa is that when you're done with them, you can send them back. Yeah. There's less requirement for you to pay holiday pay and sick pay and all that kind of stuff. It's very kind of 0-hour contracts, we call it in the UK, where you know, if there's work, you get work. If there isn't, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
So
when was that? 2017-18. So like he's the president and and that's the winter after he signed the executive order. And the thing is, it has come out more recently as well that he has still been hiring not just foreign workers, but also undocumented immigrants on his golf courses and elsewhere. Because it's been made public, they are now starting to crack down on that. Yeah.
The special pleading comes where he is basically making up an excuse why it's okay for him, but it's not okay for other people.
Not okay for everybody else,
Our second Trump example, actually, the special pleading was not done in this case by Trump himself, but by Sean Spicer.
Ah, yes.
Because it's about Trump's continual accusations of Obama spending too much time on the golf course.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Campaign,
yeah.
And saying how when he was president, he would not go and play golf because he wouldn't have time to go and play golf. He'd be too busy working in the White House. And obviously he has played a lot of golf.
Yeah.
In the first 2 months as president, he went to Mar-a-Lago or his various golf courses 10 times.
Whoa.
And so when a reporter asked in the press briefings that they used to have...
remember those.
Yeah. When he asked, how is this different? Why, you know, he was criticising Obama all the time when he was a candidate, and now he plays golf a lot. Why is that okay?
Yeah.
And Spicer basically said that for Trump, playing golf is part of being president. It's very important because he is playing golf with key world figures like President Abe of Japan. And so, when he's on the golf course, he's working.
Yeah. Whereas everybody else, that like Obama, he wasn't. Yeah. He was shirking his duties. He wasn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, Obama played golf with David Cameron, for example, and various Republican governors and senators and people who he could talk about politics with and work out deals and do things like that on the golf course
for hours at a time. Just the same. But of course, but because he's a Democrat, then that's just shirking your duties as a politician.
And now is the time, I think, for Mark's British politics corner.
So this is like bang up to date with Theresa May. There are such things in UK politics which are kind of cross-party committees made up of serving MPs who are supposed to be providing the checks and balances of what's going on in mainstream politics. So the thing that's, what's going on is Theresa May's presenting of her withdrawal agreement and the deal to try and get us out of the EU. And she was up in front of the Public Administration and Constitutional Affairs Select Committee, which was chaired by Bernard Jenkin. And there are various people across the political spectrum who have also thoughts about, whether we should leave or whether we should remain within the EU. And they're asking her about, well, why haven't we left, basically, what you've been doing. So with this clip, we'll hear Sir Bernard Jenkin, who is the chair of the committee, and also he's a Tory MP, so he belongs to Theresa May's party. That's the nice thing about these committees, is they really ask awkward questions. They're asking the awkward questions of their Prime Minister, the leader of their party. So he's an MP for Harwich and North Essex, which is a very Leave constituency, and you can kind of tell that in his asking of this question.
Under what conditions would you be prepared to set aside the pressures you're under in order to deliver the referendum result and exercise your legal right to refuse an offer of a further extension under Article 50, and if necessary to leave without a deal?
Well, I want us to leave the European Union. I have been working for us to leave the European Union. I have voted consistently in Parliament for us to leave the European Union. Had everybody in Parliament voted in the same way, we would no longer be a member of the European Union.
This means, I take that to mean that you're not going to contemplate leaving the European Union of your own choice without a withdrawal agreement.
I'm making a very simple point, which is that it is. Yes, I know, I'm answering the question in the way in which I choose to answer it. The point is very simple. I stand by the references I've made in the past that no deal is better than a bad deal. But I actually happen to think that we have a good deal.
So now the reason it's as long as it is, because there's two questions there, is because it nicely that towards the end there's a callback to our last episode, the Ignoratio Elenchi, and answering a different question. She actually quite up front says, well, he says, that's not the question I'm asking. He says, I know, I'm answering your question in a way which I choose to answer, which is just great. I love that. And you can hear the room laughing. It's brilliant. So, but the special pleading, I would posit, Malud, is that he's basically saying, so under what conditions would you just get us out of the EU? And he's a leave. So it's all the stuff that's happened in the Parliament. She's tried to get this withdrawal agreement deal through 3 times. It's been voted down 3 times. And her pleading is, well, I've been doing all this. I've voted consistently. It's everybody else. You know, if everyone was like me, we'd be out by now. And she's it's sort of opposite. It feels to me like it's still a special pleading, but it's kind of the other way around. It doesn't apply to me. She's saying it's not applying to everybody else. And that's her excuse, as it were. Her reason for still not having left the EU is because nobody's playing it according to her rules. They're all doing it wrong.
I'm not sure that this is really special pleading, because I think you're right. She's saying other people didn't play by my rules, but that's not special pleading. Special pleading is other people have got to do what I say. I don't.
But I don't.
I'm
okay.
It's having double standards where you hold other people to a higher standard usually.
Yeah.
Because and making an excuse for why you don't need to do what you say other people should do.
Yeah. So I wonder if there's a reverse of this fallacy, which is that other people are, I'm doing it right, everybody else is doing it wrong. Or is that just
I don't think that's a fallacy. I think it's just saying no one is doing what I want them to do.
It's just delusional stuff, isn't it? It would be fine if you just did what I wanted you to do. Yeah, I'm not being bossy. I just know what you should be doing. Yeah, that's basically what she's doing, isn't it? Yeah, I think there was just a note of pleading. It's an odd thing, because the whole Brexit thing strikes me as being a case of special pleading. It's, we're trying to leave the EU, but at the same time as having all the benefits of the EU, because we're different. We can't just leave, and we want to leave the club but still have membership rights. We want to use the Mar-a-Lago and the golf club Trump thing. We want to belong to the golf club but not have to pay the fees. We still go in and use the bar and, occasionally walk around the golf course.
Another example that just occurred to me was Nigel Farage, who didn't he say before the referendum that if it was as close as 48-52 in favour of remaining, then that wouldn't be the end of things. That wouldn't be acceptable to him, and he would keep fighting. Yeah. Right? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah.
But then when it came the other way, he was perfectly happy for that to be the end.
Yeah, and it's unacceptable for other people to be fighting that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
he also said if Brexit is a disaster, I will leave the country and go and live somewhere else. He still hasn't done that yet. No. So he would probably go, well, it's not yet a disaster.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So my second example might also be a little bit dodgy, but it's fun. So this is an interview between Russell Brand, who I was trying to find what is he a comedian? Is he a comedian, a writer,
He's
actor?
An actor, mate. I don't know. I suppose. Yeah, I think he was a comedian before he was an actor, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he's a writer. He was a drug addict before that. Yeah, yes, he did do, and he married Katy Perry for a while. Yeah, but he was interviewed by the same tenacious presenter that we talked about in the last episode, Jeremy Paxman, on the self-same program back in 2013, I think this is, and this followed. Well, it was it's an odd thing that because Russell Brand became a kind of erudite spokesman of the people. Now I think Jacob Rees-Mogg would call himself that as well. But and he edited the Spectator magazine, which has been published since 1828. It's a weekly and comes out in England. It's online. The oldest continually published weekly in the English language, apparently. So he's on there. He's been the guest editor of that. He's on Newsnight in October 2013, and he's talking about politics. So Paxman asks him this question.
But is it true you don't even vote?
Yeah, no, I don't vote.
Well, how do you have any authority to talk about politics then?
Well, I don't get my authority from this pre-existing paradigm, which is quite narrow and only serves a few people. I look elsewhere for alternatives that might be of service to humanity. Alternate means alternate political systems.
They being?
Well, I've not invented it yet, Jeremy. I had to do a magazine last week. I've had a lot on my plate.
So it's quite good. But now I think he kind of, so his, if you like, his excuse. So this rule, you don't vote. So where do you get your authority to talk about politics? He said, well, I get my authority from places other than politics, from alternative political realities. So, I do have authority. It's just, it's different from you, different from yours. And then Paxman presses him and says, so what are they? And then his get out is, well, I haven't invented them yet, which is kind of disingenuous, because he's going, well, here they are. This is me. You should listen to me. I'm a very well-spoken and erudite kind of guy with some strangely alternative views, but those views empower me to be able to speak with authority on this subject. And he goes, oh, okay, so what are those? Well, they don't exist. So what? So
he's not. I think I'm going to push back a little bit on this one, because I think he's kind of mostly defending not voting in this, which isn't his rule. As far as he's concerned, no one should vote because it's a waste of time, and democracy is all about making rich people richer. And so he is consistent with his own rule, but arguably, you could say that he is making up an excuse why he doesn't fit in with society in general, who at the least, most people would say that if you're going to try and talk about politics and be politically active and be, try and be a thought leader in that area, then then taking an active role in the voting system that we have at the moment is probably the least you should do. And so, yeah, he is making an excuse for why he doesn't follow that rule. And the excuse that he has is somewhat disingenuous, might be unfair, but is made up on the spot, perhaps.
Yes, exactly. What's one of the alternative things? It's ad hoc reasoning. So it's that, so it's kind of, made up on the spot. But I think but in the context of the whole interview is across, well, why is it useless to vote? The irony being that, I think, when was this? So this was around the time that the general election was called and the coalition between the Liberal Party and the Tories got in with Cameron, or was it after that? Anyway, but what happened was that Russell Brand changed his mind and he said, you should vote. And because if you don't, this happens, because other people do. So, but I think within this...
Paxo here is being really quite combative in this interview. He's taking a bit of a devil's advocate role, I think, in that he admits several times that he actually agrees with a lot of what Russell Brand is saying, but he's still kind of pushing back and poking and trying to get him to justify himself.
Well, he's trying to say, so I think in this little bit is saying, well, so I don't need to obey the rules like everybody else because I obey a set of different authorities. And he said, well, what are they? He said, well, I haven't made them up yet. So his reason for not going along with everybody else is non-existent. He just doesn't do it. That's he's kind of pleading special circumstances, which are, well, I follow an alternate set of, authorities. And he said, oh, okay, so that's your reason for not doing that. Well, what are they? He said, well, they don't exist. So that's, which is, okay. I mean, it's kind of... All right. So it's but you're right. The general rule is people shouldn't vote because of, it doesn't make any effect. It turns out it does. And he changes his mind. So, It
gives me an enormous sense of well-being. It's a fallacy. So many fallacies. It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy in the rhymes. Know what I mean?
There we are. Blur on the 25th anniversary of Fallacy Life, which they later renamed Park Life. But because we are on episode 25 and it's 25 years since Park Life came out. So I thought that was
good,
particularly apt. Yeah.
So in the Fallacy in the Wild, we like to talk about the Fallacy of the Week from a non-political perspective. And our first example this week comes from Frasier. This is an episode where Niles has been investing on Daphne's behalf and has been pretending that the investments have been going well, because when he brings her back money that is kind of like winnings basically for her, she is very excited and hugs him and kisses him. He likes that. She is continually giving him money and he's coming back with more money and saying how well she's done.
Right.
So basically he's lying to her. And meanwhile, Frasier is dating a kind of pop psychology author who writes these kind of trite self-help books and is pretending to her that he likes her writing and thinks that she's great. So so they're both lying to the women that they want to be with. And ultimately, Frasier says that Niles should stop what he's doing, and it comes out like this.
Snap out of it! What you were doing was completely dishonest. Set the pot to the kettle. What is that supposed to mean?
I think you know what it means.
Oh, so don't be ridiculous. Our two situations are totally different.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, for one thing, you've been misleading a woman for your own selfish gain.
And so are you.
Well, I'm not finished. She was also trusting you to tell the truth.
Oh, and the difference would be?
Your woman is English.
Frasier, you've lost this one.
I know. It's just going to take a little while to climb down off of this particular high horse.
Oh, I miss Frasier. It's just perfect, isn't it? Yeah. There it is, yeah. So what's the difference?
The best Frasier can come up with in the moment is that Daphne is English, and that's what makes it different.
Yeah, I love that when they just kind of go, oh, and the difference is, oh, well, oh, yeah. Oh, brilliant.
So our second example comes from an old program where James Randi would occasionally debunk various people who claimed that they had paranormal powers. And this particular example is a guy called James Heydrich, who claimed that he had the ability to move things with his mind. And he would kind of balance a pencil on the edge of a table and gesture around it, and it would fall off the table. And he would move pages of a telephone directory of Yellow Pages. So Randi did this thing even up to just a few years ago, where he was prepared to pay people if they could actually do paranormal things under skeptical conditions, under conditions where it would be difficult to do it without it being paranormal.
Yep.
So in this TV program, he had the Yellow Pages laid out, the telephone book, and it was his theory that actually what Heydrich was doing was just blowing very subtly and making the pages turn.
Right.
So he scattered some styrofoam peanuts around on the table so that if Heydrich blew, they would move.
They would move as well, yeah.
And suddenly it became a lot more difficult. So, and since Heydrich couldn't then do it, he had to come up with an excuse. So he said this.
The styrofoam and the lights form electricity which pulls the page. Look. It pulls the page down instead of freeing the pages.
All right, and what would you like to ask us to ask Randi to allow you to do or for me to do?
Either take something else, either lighter or something that is going to that isn't going to form like static electricity.
You mean put something else, some other material around here?
Something that is not foam. Foam causes static electricity, and the light is what heats it up.
All right, Randi, is there anything else that you can put around the telephone directory?
I've heard the question, but the question is not valid because it's making an assumption which is not true. The foam does not in any way create static electricity, and Mr. Heydrich, in demonstrating that the pages were clinging together, didn't demonstrate it to my satisfaction. I think we could perhaps ask the judges for their opinion on that. I am not a scientist, so I'm not qualified to declare on it.
Judges?
Whatever static electricity exists in the styrofoam would not really affect the movement of the page or the clinging of the pages together, in my opinion.
I would add that if this is in fact psychic functioning, I don't really see why that would make a difference.
So we will have the video of this on our show notes, and you can see in that bit where no one was talking for a while, Heydrich was attempting to show that the pages were being pulled together by static electricity, and completely failing to show that. The pages weren't flopping back down to where he lifted them up from. They were kind of doing what you would expect pages to do. So the rule here essentially is that he had this ability, that he was able to do this, and he was put into a position where he suddenly wasn't able to do it because perhaps the paranormal explanation that he had for it wasn't real. So he had to come up with an excuse. And you see this time and time again. There's loads of videos on YouTube of Randi exposing and debunking people who believe or claim to believe that they have psychic powers or paranormal powers. There's a great video of Uri Geller on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. And Johnny Carson is a magician as well, was a magician, and he spoke to Randi, and they arranged to have their own kind of spoons and things like this and things for Uri Geller to do. And all of a sudden, the kind of, he wasn't feeling psychically strong.
Fluence,
he couldn't do it himself.
The fluence left him. Yeah. I can remember Randi saying, he said that, that often happens. It's strange, under these kind of scientific conditions where we set the stage, people's psychic powers often, are ill that day.
Yeah.
So,
and it happens with people who genuinely believe that they are able to do it as well. One common example is dowsers. There was a program on Channel 4 a while ago with Derren Brown. I think he had hidden some buckets of water underground and got people who believed that they had the ability to detect water using dowsing rods to come and test their skills, basically, and find the water. And they were all absolutely confident beforehand that they would be able to do it. They weren't able to do it because it was done under, experimental conditions.
Yeah.
And they all came up with explanations as to why they couldn't do it in that particular situation. And as far as we can tell, they really genuinely believed that they had those abilities and would do it. It wasn't something that they were kind of making any money off or trying to fool anyone with. And it's just when that situation happens where you think this is what should happen, this is what will happen, and then it doesn't, you come up with an excuse and you make up reasons. So
it must be that there are no examples under experimental conditions, in a TV studio, for instance, where there is film of people doing it. Because, there's a whole bunch of things where Randi is saying, oh, that's odd, that always happens. There's lots of those where it doesn't happen, but there are very few where it does. So it's, we must go back. In the light of this episode, it'd be good to go back and listen to all the excuses.
Well, Randi and his educational foundation had a prize that at the time in the 70s, I think, was about $10,000 that he was prepared to pay someone who could prove that they had paranormal powers. It went up to $1 million in the end.
Wow. Wow.
And no one was able to claim it. And there were multiple people who tried. Yeah. In fact, our previous guest on another episode, Marsh from the Merseyside Skeptics, was involved in a few of the kind of early trials of people who they were going through the process of trying to get to the point where they could prove it to Randi, basically, so that they could go for the $1 million. And they worked out the experimental conditions with the skeptics and with the psychics and people like that. Everyone agreed to it and said, yes, I'll be able to do it under these conditions. And they weren't ever able to do it.
Wow. That's a great game show, isn't it? That would be kind of, who wants to be a millionaire or who can move a millionaire without using their hands or something like that. That's great, isn't it? Oh, I think we should tout that. Channel 5 would love that, wouldn't they? That's Who
can move a millionaire?
Who can move a millionaire? There we go. Yeah. Yeah. So you'd have the $1 million in a Perspex cube, and then we need Matt LeBlanc to present it. Yeah,
in another Perspex cube.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So, as Mark said earlier on, it is episode 25. Yeah, we're very excited to have reached this milestone. As a kind of celebration, we've created a little competition for people in our Facebook group. So go to facebook.com/groups/FallaciousTrump and you can enter this competition. Basically, it's like a kind of Deadpool where you choose people and then get points if they die. But in this case, it's not if they die, it's if they get fired or resigned from Trump's administration.
Yeah.
So I've made a list of the kind of 50 most important people in the administration and in kind of related agencies, and it's all, the score is based on how long they manage to stay in the job. So if you choose someone who is out of a job within a few months, you get lots of points. If they've managed to stay in the job for several years, then the points are less. And essentially you pick 10 names from the list and email them to me, and we keep the score going and keep a leaderboard. And whoever, as of January 20th, 2020, has the most points will win some Fallacious Trump merch.
Yay. The thing is, between you compiling that list and us launching this, 2 people have gone already. That's how volatile it is. That's how live the damn thing is. Yeah.
Currently I'm waiting to find out who's going to take over from Rod Rosenstein as Deputy Attorney General so that I can put them into the list instead of him.
Yeah. I wouldn't bother writing it down because he won't be there long. So, yeah, sign up. And
yeah, you can go to the Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Fallacious Trump. You can go direct to fallaciostrump.com/Deadpool.
There you go.
And that will take you straight to the list. And, the rules are there. Follow the instructions. And you've got until the 1st of June to sign up.
So we're gonna play fake news, folks. I love the game. It's a great game. I understand the game as well as anybody.
Yes, it's time for Fake News, the game where I read out 3 Trump quotes, 2 of which are real and 1 I made up, and Mark has to figure out which one is fake news.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that actually, you see, under these particular set of rules, the fact that I lose a lot is neither here nor there. That's, the rule, that bit, what we should be looking at is the way that we should be scoring it is like every time I win, that counts. And then we just ignore the ones that don't, because that's only fair.
So you're saying we should just say you're currently on 8?
Yeah.
Instead of 8 out of 20.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
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 Okay.
And
fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So our theme this week, as you'll remember recently, Michelle Bachmann claimed that Trump was very godly and the most biblical president that she's ever seen.
Yep.
And so the theme this week is religion.
Oh, okay.
So statement 1, I have a great relationship with God. I don't want to, it's very personal to me, but you look at my golf courses. I own the most beautiful golf courses all around the world, and I built those. I'm a great builder, but you can't compete with God.
Okay, yeah.
Statement 2.
Yep.
I go as much as I can, always on Christmas, always on Easter, always when there's a major occasion, and during the Sundays. I'm a Sunday church person. I'll go when I can.
Right. Right. Oh, that sounds like the character out of Modern Family who never goes to the church. Yeah.
Or statement number 3. Mm-hmm. People are so proud to be using that beautiful word God, and they're using the word God again. They're not hiding from it, and they're not being told to take it down, and they're not saying we can't honour God.
Yeah. Okay, well, that one reminds me of the being able to say Merry Christmas. Yeah. Okay. I like that. Even when he's talking about God, he turns it into talking about himself. That's right. I am those people good, but you can't compete with God. The unspoken bit is he built the earth in 7 days. I'm a great builder, but it's a humble brag right there. Okay, I go as much as I can, always on Christmas, always on Easter. The trouble is just so damn good. I can hear him saying them. Okay, I think number one's probably okay. Right. I think number 3 is the one you made up.
Okay. So of the other 2, which are you more confident about?
I think number 1, I think he said.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So number 1 is fake news.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's excellent. That's really good. Oh, I'm disappointed because I want to hear him say it. Wow, I think we should mash it up so we can hear him say it. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. See, I thought number 3 was fake because that's a bit like the Merry Christmas one, doesn't it? Or you're not allowed to say.
Yeah, no, that was actually number 3 was just this week.
Really?
National Day of Prayer, and Trump claimed that that basically his faith got him through the whole Mueller thing, the Russian hoax,
right? Right.
And he was saying to Mike Pence, how they just think about God when they need to.
Okay.
So he said it. Here we go.
Okay. Right.
People are so proud to be using that beautiful word God, and they're using the word God again, and they're not hiding from it, and they're not being told to take it down, and they're not saying we can't honor God.
Yeah, because previously no one was saying God.
No, or just Gad.
You never.
Yeah,
heard that.
yeah.
No, Gary. No, you never heard it anywhere. People were being told to take it down before.
Exactly.
Apparently.
Take down that word. Yeah.
And hide
take
from
down
it.
and the word of God. Yeah. See, it's almost saying, what he's saying is almost make God great again.
Yeah.
See, that's it. Oh,
he's claiming basically that he brought back God.
He brought back God. Yeah.
By being so very godly.
Yeah. Yeah. He is biblical in every sense of the word, isn't he?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. Oh, okay. So that wow. So that means the Sunday's one is also
number 2,
real.
Yes. Number 2 was an interview that he gave before he became president with the Christian Broadcast Network. And it was full of awkward moments. He talked about how loads of people sent him Bibles, and he has a special place that he puts them. He doesn't ever throw them away or get rid of them or anything like that. It's
called a church.
And they have a very special room.
The Bible room. That's why it's biblical. He just has lots of Bibles. Yeah. It's
and he
Biblish.
was asked if he went to church, and that is what he said.
I go as much as I can, always on Christmas, always on Easter, always when there's a major occasion, and during the Sundays. I'm a Sunday church person. I'll go when I can.
During the Sundays.
During the Sundays.
That's like during that. There's the Easter and then the Sundays. That's a bit like his Easter one the other day, isn't it? From last episode. It's bullshit. It's complete and utter made up on the. Anyway, it's ad hoc reasoning, isn't it? Yeah, I'll go as much as I can. Let me just think. What are we talking about? Church? Oh yeah. So Christmas. What else is that? Funerals. Yeah,
he used to talk about the pastor at his church, his Presbyterian church that he definitely always went to. He talked about this guy so much that actually the pastor's son complained and said he should stop talking about him because his father would not like it. He wouldn't appreciate it.
Yeah. It's like, and on the Sundays, I'm a Sunday church person. I'll go when I can.
That means, unfortunately, that you are now at exactly chance 8 out of 24, so 33.3 recurring percent.
Yeah, those 0.3 recurrings, we love them.
So
we can't focus on those bits. We just, I remain at 8. Still at 8. Yeah. Okay.
So, podcast listeners, this is episode 25, and this is your last chance to send us a convincing fake Trump quote, because I've asked and asked, and you've let me down, frankly. Yeah. So,
and actually, it's obvious you don't need any help, Jim. Because
well, that's fair. But if you do think that you can make up a convincing fake Trump quote, then this is your one opportunity now to send it to us, and I'll stop asking because obviously it's not getting me anywhere. So share this episode on Twitter, include your quote and the hashtag Fallacious Trump. I'll pick their best one, and you'll be podcast famous.
The issues splitting our society are too often discussed out of context and lack clarity. To combat this, we break down today's issues and view them through the lens of history.
We are a former Democrat
and former Republican
whose parties have left us. With open minds, facts, and history as our guides, we have embarked on a quest for political truth.
Come join us at Context and Clarity Podcast, where we are not enemies, but friends.
So it's time for the part of the show that this week at least is called Tariffs Are Not a Logical Fallacy, because Trump has been at it again.
Oh, God. Yeah.
And what he has been at specifically is completely misunderstanding how tariffs work and how trade works and how deficits work and all of that stuff. So last week he tweeted, "For 10 months, China has been paying tariffs to the USA of 25% and $50 billion of high tech and 10% and $200 billion of other goods. These payments are partially responsible for our great economic results." And that is not true. Because he is a fucking idiot and doesn't understand that China isn't paying anything.
No.
When you put tariffs on imports, the Chinese people still send the same stuff and get the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And American people pay the tax, pay the tariff, and they pay that to the Treasury.
Yeah.
They do not pay the Chinese, and the Chinese do not pay America.
Pay the Treasury, yes. Yeah.
It's really basic, this stuff. It's not complicated.
No. But it's money, and he knows money. He knows he's the best at money. So anybody who doesn't know that stuff, doesn't know what he knows, which is nothing, he doesn't trust them at all. And then he kind of confuses the issue, and then all his, slack-jawed followers, no apologies, just kind of go, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they will go, yeah, you're right. Yeah, and they're the ones that end up paying the extra to buy things and then have less money to put into the American economy when buying American things.
Absolutely. And this is because Trump thinks that if there's a trade deficit, that means America is losing money.
Yeah.
Because deficit means losing money. That he understands that bit.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get that, there's a balance. There's stuff coming from China to America that people are buying. And the fact that they can buy that stuff cheaper when it's coming from China than they can from American companies means they have more money left over to spend on American stuff.
Yeah.
And also at the same time, America is exporting stuff to China and Chinese people are paying for that. And there is a balance. And the fact that people are buying more stuff from China than the Chinese people are buying from America isn't a bad thing. It means that they're getting the same stuff cheaper. And it's like saying, I've lost hundreds of pounds a week to the supermarket, to the grocery store.
Yeah.
And I've got a trade deficit with the grocery store.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable.
I've spent the money, I've given them money, and all I've got from them is goods.
Yeah.
And the value of the goods is not worth what I've paid for them. Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah. And it's not, and some of those goods that you get from China aren't made in America.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
you can't get them in America.
Trump brand ties and things like that. They're made in China. So
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And well, Trump golf balls. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, of course, because there'll be a rule that only applies to him vis-a-vis Trump ties. But yeah.
But he's decided that he's going to start taxing all of the stuff that has been 10%, all of the tariffs that have been at 10%. He's going to put 25% tariffs on those. So basically it's going to be all of the stuff that's coming from China is going to be 25%. So he's charging the American people basically extra.
More money.
To annoy the Chinese. And the Chinese aren't bothered.
No.
It's not affecting them at all.
No, because they're just going, well, we'll still sell the same stuff because you can't get it in America, or it's cheaper than what it is in America.
And this is the same with the steel tariffs, where he's put tariffs on importing steel from China, from Canada, from Mexico, from basically everywhere else outside of the US. In a theory that will mean people will buy American steel, and that will add jobs in the kind of steel manufacturing economy, which is true to a certain extent, in that it has increased the viability of selling American steel, US steel. According to the Alliance of American Manufacturing, created 12,700 new well-paying jobs.
Right.
It's created or saved that many jobs at steel and aluminium factories since the president put the policy in place in March of 2018.
Oh, right. Well, that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, for every one person who works in the steel creating industry, 80 people work in industries that use steel.
Right.
And those people, those industries, those companies are now paying more for their steel.
Yeah.
So companies like Riverdale Mills in Massachusetts, which makes wire mesh products from like fences and commercial fishing nets and things like that, they use steel. They don't make it. They've had to pay more for their steel because of the tariffs, and they have laid off a quarter of their workforce. Well, to be fair, they have stopped rehiring when people leave. So ultimately, that means that their 200-person workforce is reduced by 50. So the jobs are increasing in the steel manufacturing industry, and they are decreasing elsewhere, and it is costing Americans money. And in fact, according to the Peterson Institute, they have calculated that every steel job saved is costing US consumers over $900,000.
Whoa!
Because of US companies having to pay 10% more for steel since the tariffs went into effect.
Wow.
So the total additional cost to the US economy is $11.5 billion a year because of the tariffs.
Whoa.
So, I mean, you could literally give those 12,700 people a really well-paid job, like a $100,000 job, doing nothing at all, sitting on their ass, and it would be saving an enormous amount of money.
Well, that's happening to the man in the Oval Office. He's been paid an enormous amount of money to sit on his ass and do nothing.
Well, he's not taking a salary, even Trump. He's doing it for nothing. He's ruining the country out of the goodness of his own heart.
His own heart. That's God bless him. Yeah, he's making America great again. And finally, some things we really don't have time to talk about.
On April 26th, Trump tweeted, "President Donald J. Trump is the greatest hostage negotiator that I know of in the history of the United States. 20 hostages, many in impossible circumstances, have been released in the last 2 years. No money was paid." And he attributed that quote to Chief Hostage Negotiator USA. Chief spelled wrong. Now,
that's a job.
Leaving aside for the moment that there's no evidence that this was ever said by anyone.
No.
The reference to no money paid was presumably in response to an article in the Washington Post reporting that the White House agreed to pay North Korea $2 million for the release of US student Otto Warmbier. Lorax, who speaks for the bombs, John Bolton, confirmed that the US did sign an agreement promising to pay the money, but didn't actually pay any of it. I mean, you've got to admit, when it comes to paying people what he promised them, Trump is remarkably consistent.
Our very favourite incompetent slime balls, Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman, have been doing their surreptitious best undercover work again to smear Democrats. Well, that is to say it's rubbish. This time, however, they've used real people to make allegations against Pete Buttigieg, or as Trump says it,
We have a young man, boot edge. Boot edge. They say edge. He's got a great chance, doesn't he? He'll be great. Representing us against President Xi of China. That'll be great. I want to be in that room. I want to watch that one.
The source who spoke to the Daily Beast said that Berkman and Wohl flew out to meet him, introduced themselves using false names, but he recognised them from previous reports about their exploits. And he taped the conversation. Another source, Hunter Kelly, wrote that he did not control the newly created Medium and Twitter accounts that posted allegations under his name, all against Pete Buttigieg. Told the Beast were reporting on apparent efforts by Jacob Wohl and Jack Berkman to drum up false sexual assault allegations against Buttigieg. Kelly replied, "I was unaware that this was happening, but yes, it's true." So, one step nearer to reality using real people, boys, but still nowhere near the truth. I actually feel a comedy villain duo series coming on. Berkman and Wohl.
Lindsey Graham opened a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing last week by saying, "Here's the Mueller report. You can read it for yourself. It's about 400 and something pages. I can't say I've read it all, but I've read most of it." This isn't great since the hearing was about the Mueller report and Graham is the fucking chairman of the committee. Even worse, though, is that William Barr doesn't seem to have read it. When Cory Booker referred to the campaign sharing polling data, Barr asked, "With who?" And under questioning from Kamala Harris, he admitted that he'd made his decision not to prosecute Trump for obstruction of justice without reading any of the underlying evidence attached to the report. Let's be honest, it would have been difficult since he made that decision sometime in 2018.
Nice. Great news. The Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee has subpoenaed Donald Trump Jr. to answer questions about his previous testimony before Senate investigators in relation to the Russian investigation. Despite Don Jr.'s people moaning about having already talked to them and staying till we got all the answers and complaining, well, why are we fighting Republicans? The committee probably wants to reconcile Mini Cheeto's peripheral awareness of the Moscow Trump Tower project with Jailbird Cohen's testimony that he briefed him 10 times on the project. Yeah, it seems obfuscation and obstruction is, after all, a genetic trait. Oh, as is collusion.
In a move which is exactly what a totally innocent person would do, Trump has asserted executive privilege over the unredacted parts of the Mueller report and all underlying evidence, presumably because he wants to protect people from finding out just how incredibly innocent he is. This move seems to be in response to the House Judiciary Committee voting to hold Bill Barr in contempt for refusing to show up and testify about how very, very innocent the president is. The assertion of executive privilege will probably also prevent former White House counsel Don McGahn from testifying about the complete lack of any crimes committed by the president.
Great news! Trump would have been charged with obstruction were he not president. Hundreds of former federal prosecutors assert. Do we really need to say anything more? 450 former federal prosecutors can't be wrong. But we wait for Trump to come up with 450 new nicknames in order to prove them wrong, hey?
When Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal almost exactly a year ago, one of the reasons was that it only limited Iran's nuclear capability for 15 years. The US then reimposed their old sanctions on Iran and promised new sanctions on any countries trading with Iran. In a totally unpredictable step, Iran has announced this week that unless the country is allowed back into the international financial system, they will resume production of centrifuges and start accumulating nuclear material. But on the plus side, no, I can't think of anything.
No. I love that it seems in Trump world that it's legitimate for him to believe that it's okay for him to say that the billions he lost throughout the 80s and 90s, the largest tax loss by any individual in US existence ever, and that's not a Trump boast, that these were for tax purposes. Well, duh, we know. And it's still a despicable and heinous and immoral act. And appealing somehow to, oh, they were different times, doesn't excuse it. The Catholic Church, Jimmy Savile. Trump genuinely believes we are living in the alternate Biff Tannen timeline. Great Scott!
To be fair, I don't think it's the largest tax loss by any individual in the US existence ever. I think that's more of a Trump thing. No,
is it?
I think it was in 1991, he lost more money in his business than anyone else that year. And in fact, I think by a factor of 2, he was like the nearest next person was half as much loss.
What?
So...
And it's just the way he kind of playfully says, oh, yeah, we did it all the time. Yeah, that's what you just do.
Just sport.
Yeah. And and then you just go, oh, yeah, well, the reason we did that was so that we could just write off the tax. You go, yeah, it doesn't make it right.
So that's all the bad arguments and faulty reasoning we have time for this episode. You can find the show notes at fallaciostrump.com. And if you hear Trump say something stupid and want to ask if it's a fallacy, our contact details are on the contact page.
If you think we've used a fallacy ourselves, let us know. And if you've had a good time, please give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can support the show on our Patreon page at patreon.com/ftrump, just like our newest patron, Alan Firth. Thanks, Alan.
You can also connect with us and other listeners in the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/fallacioustrump, where you can enter our Trump Deadpool competition. I was a guest on the Drop the Pilot podcast last week, where I talked about Steel Justice, a truly awful film about a giant metal dinosaur that has the soul of a cop's murdered son inside it. So if you want to listen to that, there's a link in the show notes.
Also in the show notes is a link to the Context and Clarity podcast, whose promo we played earlier in the show. All music is by The Outbursts and was used with permission. So until next time on Fallacious Trump, we'll leave the last word to the Donald.
That's right. Go home to mommy. Bye. Bye.
Lindsey Graham opened a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing last week by saying, "Here's the Mueller report. You can read it for yourself. It's about 400 and something pages. I can't say I've read it all, but I've read most of it." I'm going to have another go at that Lindsey Graham quote because I did not get his accent at all. So I'm just going to read it normally because I don't know why I thought I could just do it off the top of my head.
Because you could hear it in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. When he said it, I thought,
I can hear it.
So I'm just going to read it like a normal person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for Earned Income Tax Credit, Child Tax Credit, and Student Loan Interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.